What is up, ladies and gentlemen? We've got Screamy Scott Randall from 101 The Riff here to basically talk to the class.
How's everybody doing? Good. This is my first time in front of a live studio audience, so please bear with me. My name is Scott Randall. I went to Cusino High School all the way back in 1982, where I took the radio course for three solid years. And with that, I really knew it was a goal, because when you take that test, have you ever taken that test to where they say, this is what you should be in life? I think it's like a SAT type of test. Well, my test came back that I should be a movie projector operator. That didn't seem like a big career for me. But I knew Cusino High School had the high school radio station, so I enrolled, took the test and got in, and had a student in the class by the name of Dave Pentescu tell me, as soon as I walked in that door for the first time, why are you here? You will never make it in radio. As soon as that happened, that I set myself a goal that this was going to be my career. And it all started at WPHS in Warren. We were at a different frequency back then. Instead of 89.1, it was 91.5, and we were a whopping 10 watts of power, which basically got to the end of the parking lot, but it was radio in my first job. After 3 years, I had went to the Specs Howard School of Broadcast Arts and got a little more toolage to hone my craft. And after graduating from Specs Howard, a lot of my classmates decided to move up north for their first job in radio. I took an alternative route. It was too damn cold to move up north to Michigan, because it was like summer only lasted a few weeks up there. Other than that, it was snow and cold. So I decided to try things a little bit warmer and move down south, Ohio. Well, the first city that I came to in Ohio where I got my first job was a city called Wapakoneta. Strange name, but it's actually the home of Neil Armstrong, one of the first men who landed on the moon. My first radio station was a hot hit station. Well, back in 1982 or 83, the hot hits at the time were bands like Duran Duran and Kajagoogoo. So wasn't really much of some hot hits. But again, it was the first job, first time away from home, 17, 18 years old, living out on my own. Had a puke green 1973 Dodge Dart that had everything that I owned all packed into it. Moved to Ohio, and that lasted a few years. Unique station being a hot hit station, they wanted all the DJs to have what they called at the time the Ron radio voice. I don't know if those of you who watched the movie about Ron Burgundy. Well, they wanted all the DJs to talk like, hey, this is Waxin 92. We've got Madonna coming up. I hated and detested that. I had taken all this training to be a disc jockey, and my first job ever, they wanted me to sound like, hey, a floppy bar DJ on 8 Mile. And it just wasn't my thing. So I knew that there's more than one radio station out there. So subsequently, I got hired by another station out of Fort Wayne, Indiana. So went from Michigan to Ohio to now Fort Wayne. Now, the station I went to in Fort Wayne was called WQTZ. It was an oldie station, but I thought at the time, why not get a history on rock and roll? There's some music that I know, but then there was a whole vast of music from the 50s, 60s, and 70s. I had no clue, but thought it would be a great education. I spent 5 solid years there, honing my craft and getting to be known as a afternoon disc jockey, which was pretty cool, because you could stay up pretty late, wake up, get your coffee in the morning, and still have time to get to work by 10 o'clock and do a show. While I was in Fort Wayne, I also honed my skills of radio doing production. That was the part of making commercials. And for those working back at that time, we worked with different things. Everything is technologically advanced now. We worked with tape and carts, and we were still using 45 in records back at the time. Again, in Fort Wayne, Indiana, it was like a miniature Detroit. So they had a semi-pro hockey team and a great nightlife for local up-and-coming bands that came out of Fort Wayne. After 5 years in Indiana, I moved back home, back to Michigan without a job. And it was the first time in my radio career that I had spent, a good number of years and just waiting for my chance to make it in Detroit. Now, with that, all the radio legends all had everything all rock solid hooked up here in Detroit. All the radio legends that I grew up with, like Arthur Penhallow, Carl Coffey, Jim Johnson, they weren't about to move. So the chances of me getting a job in Detroit were pretty slim to none. So I went back for 1 year and worked the club business of being in a bar as a bar disc jockey. And subsequently, just by doing that, it was at the Ritz in Roseville. And while I was working, a radio station owner here in Detroit came up to the DJ booth and said, "Wow, you've got a fantastic voice. You should be in radio." Now that's after I've done, close to almost 10 years out of state, and having some guy just walk up to me going, "Hey, you should be in radio." My first thought was I'd want to hit him, but he actually told me who he was, and he said, "Hey, would you be interested in working as a morning person here in Detroit?" So I said, "Fantastic, what is that all about?" It was a new station that was a satellite station all around the country called Z-Rock. They were known for playing rock and roll that was just out of the box, a little louder, that radio hadn't heard yet. More like the early days of Metallica and Pantera that normally just wouldn't get any airplay on any radio station around. But this station gave them that chance. So for 3.5 years, I was the morning radio personality at Z-Rock. My duties in the morning was, for one, to wake up at about 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning and get my show ready, go on from 5:30 until 11. And that was Monday through Friday. And compared to the other really, really popular morning shows in the Motor City, we all had the morning team or the morning club or the breakfast club. I was all by myself because the station couldn't afford to have anybody work alongside me. So I did the whole show by myself. So all the comedy, all the bits, the music I played and everything was all done by me. Well, I'd done that again for 3.5 years up against some of the biggest morning radio stations and morning shows here in Detroit. After that was done, I got a call from WRAF's Doug Podell at the time. And Doug asked me, "Are you happy?" I said, "Well, yeah, I'm happy." He goes, "How would you like to come work for WRAF?" Now with that, I had been in radio for, little about 13 years. And with that, I had only made one resume. My only resume was to get that first job in Wapakoneta, Ohio. Every other radio station that I worked for, I didn't need a resume. They just hired me on the spot. So when I went to work for WRAF, it was only a part-time gig on the weekends because, again, all the radio legends were there. I'd worked weekends for 1 year, and after that 1 year, I was promised a full-time gig. So I'd start working the overnights. Did the overnights for quite a many years, probably about 12 or 13, till I got an evening slot, 7 to midnight, to where I am right now. I'm at close to 33, 34 years in this business. And I can look back now, standing right here is just a dream. It's a dream knowing that one day I had walked in to a classroom filled with students, had one idiot that said, "You're not going to make it. Why would you even try?" So next time somebody puts that to you and says, "Hey, there's no way that you can make it. There's no way. You should just quit. You should just quit now." Think about it. It's what you want to do. This is your life. And I'm glad I made the choices that I did. And I hope that you guys can do the same thing with yours. So I wish you the best of luck in whatever you do. And from my heart itself, thank you for taking the time and listening to my story. And hopefully you'll get to write your own story soon. Thank you.